Hello, welcome to the new section of Composed Life. I'll be putting together some compositions, unusual compositions, and also looking at probably things that we wouldn't ordinarily consider drawing, as in a bookshelf, which is kind of a composed arrangement because you order your shelves, you know how you want them to look. And it's great because there's always a mix of really interesting objects on there. So this is a great exercise for looking at proportions as well, and obviously an easy setup because it's something that you've already got there, and it might inspire you to read one of your favourite books again maybe. And I would definitely look at this exercise as kind of experimenting and exploring, and as a bit of a puzzle to be solved. Not really something that you want to be really trying to painfully draw in detail, because that could take an incredible amount of time and end up being pretty boring, I think. Yeah, and it's a nice reflective exercise. There's a lot of nice memories on bookshelves as well, a lot of things, nice things collected, not just books. And I think for this one, pencils, HB for sketching out and a 4B and a 6B for shading. So I'll just move the camera so that you can see what I'm working on. There we go. There we go. So that is me just very, very roughly sketching out the shelf, and I'll just do a little bit more now. That's just taken me maybe about 10 minutes just to kind of roughly put the lines down. So yeah, HB for sketching out, 6B for shading, and you can either go for detail. So you could do a very big section, a big drawing of a small section of your kind of bookshelf. You know, you could just do a few really big books, and you know, maybe if you've got an ornament there as well, so you could just focus on a very small area and put the detail in to the spines of the books, the text and all that kind of thing. Or you can do like I've done, where I've taken a fair section and I've just kind of taken it as it is. Yeah, and you can put the detail in the books if you really want it to be, you know, really painstaking. Or I think the good idea for this, because we're concentrating more on proportions and how things relate to each other size wise, this is why it's a really good exercise for proportions. I would recommend maybe just shading out the books. So for example, we've got a fairly dark one here, and it goes dark towards the edges as it's getting enclosed by these two books on the side. So just forget about the text, just shade that book in there, and you could literally just leave it like that. This one's archaeology, so the text would run down there, and it's quite light as well. And this is a little bit darker as it fades off into the back of this shelf. So your lighting is probably going to be quite important for this as well. And you know, you can play around with that to kind of get it how you want it as well. It's something that's great, and you could get really lost in it as well. And if we're not focusing on getting things exactly right, detail wise, we're just going for proportions, you can just kind of get lost, let the creative flow go a little bit. Yeah, and I wouldn't try and be too precise, or you will tie yourself in knots and get frustrated. So I would go for my classic phrase and go for near enough. And if you can get near enough and you're quite happy with it, then that's great. So I'm facing this shelf fairly head on, but you know, if you're at a different angle, the books are gonna, you know, the books are maybe going to be sitting like this, so you're going to see the sides of the books. You know, if there's another book coming in here, so you need to decide whether you want to do it head on, or you want to get your books you know, from the side to make things a little bit more interesting. It also just depends what's comfortable and where your shelves are as well, really. It doesn't just have to be a bookshelf, it could be a collection of books, a collection of magazines stacked next to each other. So proportions, it's really good because if you do draw that shelf out to start with, and you can instantly start to measure what's bigger and what's smaller compared to each other. Now you've got kind of CDs sitting at the side here. It's quite dark at the back there. So yeah, a nice one to play around with. Something that you can try and retry as well. And you can change the arrangements, introduce new objects, and just really concentrate on the sizes and how they relate to each other. It's really nice when you do kind of focus on areas, you know, kind of that you see every day and you just kind of pass them by, really. So bigger one coming in here. On the bottom of the books, if you watch them as well, you'll see that depending on where they're sitting on the shelf, if they're further in or further back out, that's where they'll sit. So that one's further back out, that one's further in. That's next to each other. These are all the same. And you've got a row of kind of straight backed, soft back books here, all sitting next to each other as they come behind the antique clock. So if you're a bit scared about doing all the text and everything, a lot of books have got, you know, kind of banners behind the text. So they've got different, there's one with a bit of yellow sitting there, and then it goes to blue. So you can play around with your tone as well, get all your tone practiced. And then it's red on the top, so we'll just go through a few light lines. And you'll kind of know which book that is as well by doing that. A lot of books have got their little like penguin marks and things like that on the top, so you can get those on. If you want to kind of go halfway between shading out and getting the text, you can just randomly put some little lines down there, and then you just kind of work around them as if it is a little bit of text showing through. It's actually I've done it a few times as an exercise, and it's something that you can get really, really lost in, and it's really good fun. But just be careful what objects you're placing on there if you don't want to give yourself too much of a challenge. Some nice simple objects, maybe like fruit or something like that, you could put on there. If you've got the dog's tennis balls or something like that. I'm actually really enjoying doing this one, so I may do a little bit more work on it. And yeah, so kind of think about your tone when you're putting things on. This is an old brass antique clock. So some nice brass tones on there. This kind of was darker to this side. So you kind of get the idea. Just make sure you're comfortable. You've got something nice to lean on underneath your journal if your journal's a bit too awkward just to be sitting on your knee on its own. And just enjoy it. You know, if you get really into it, you can start to whack quite a bit of detail in there if you feel like it. But as little as much as you want, really. I would probably suggest maybe just doing a couple of preliminary sketches. I always struggle with that word. And then have a go maybe at something a little bit more detailed. But have fun. Thank you very much.